We can go ahead and talk about drawing quadratics using this formula here. F of x is equal to a, parentheses, x minus h, quantity squared, plus k. Now here's the deal. It's like this. I want you to think about your ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend. Your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, no matter how righteous you think they are, they're lying about you right now. They're talking garbage about you. So, just like your ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend talk garbage about you, how they lie to you after y'all break up, is the same way we're going to treat this. So, right in here, we're going to have basically our vertex. And our vertex is going to be given to us. So inside with our x in here, we're going to do the opposite. Just like the liar, we're doing the opposite. We ain't going to believe that. So this is going to be h, comma, and since this k is not with the x, we're going to go with it. And we're going to believe this one. All right? So let's talk about this. F of x is equal to x plus 2 squared minus 6. So if I'm looking at this and I want to put a vertex down, I look in with the x. I remember with the x, it's a liar, so we go in opposite. I know my vertex is going to be -2, and I'm going to go with that, with the k, -2, -6. So when I draw this out, -2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's my vertex. All right? This is my vertex right now, -2, -6. Now, while I'm looking at the reason why it shifts over this way is because if I think about this, if I just put in any number, let's say we put in f of 2. Well, f of 2 is going to be 2, or excuse me, -2. -2 plus 2 squared minus 6. So what this means is when x is -2, -2 plus 2, 0, squared minus 6. So we know f of -2 is 0 minus 6. So when f is -2, or excuse me, when x is -2, we know our y is going to be -6. That's how we come up with these points. So we're going to go ahead and plug a couple other points in. So here's my points now. And what I want to do is I want to talk about a y-intercept. Well, to get a y-intercept, all I need to do is I know that for every y-intercept, my x is 0. So f of 0 is equal to 0 plus 2 squared minus 6. 0 plus 2, 2 squared minus 6. 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 6, which is -2. So, what this means is when x is 0, my y is -2. So, when x is 0, my y, -2. So it's going to look just like that. Now, oops, this should be a little over to the side. There we go. -2,6. There we go. Okay, my bad. Now, check it out. We're going to go ahead and talk about symmetry with this. Essentially, our vertex is going to give us our line of symmetry. So if I know that from here to here is a distance of 2, I'm going to come back over 2, and I'm going to get the same point. And I'm going to demonstrate that for you. Notice from this point to this point, there's a distance in the x by 2. So from this point to this point, there's another distance by 2. So I'm going to use a -4. F of -4 is equal to -4 plus 2 squared minus 6, which becomes -2 squared minus 6, which becomes 4 minus 6, which is -2. Now, I want you to notice that essentially, even though we start off with our different x's initially, once we combine these portions of them, we have the negative 2 squared, the positive 2 squared. Now we're having the 4 minus 6, the 4 minus 6. So it's behaving the same way once we get past that initial phase. So this is the point right here. When x is negative 4, y is negative 2. So here's my points. So from here, I know that this is going up, just like that. All right? Now, I'm going to erase this momentarily, put up some other stuff. If we take x plus 2 squared minus 6, well, at these points, I'm going to set this equal to 0 because my y is equal to 0 all along the x-axis. So if I set this equal to 0, I add 6 to both sides. 6 is equal to x plus 2 squared. Now, we're going to tackle this with the square root method. You can tackle it any way you want. I'm going to go ahead and take the square root of both sides. So from here, I'm going to get negative 2 from both sides. So I know negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 6 is equal to x. So what this means, when my y is 0, my x is going to be this. Now this makes sense. Check it out. Notice it's negative 2. Well, what's my line of symmetry? My line of symmetry is, in fact, on the negative 2 for the x. So what this means is that if I go this way, this is going to be negative 2 plus radical 6. If I go that way, it's going to be negative 2 minus radical 6. And when we go plus the radical 6, we're going to get our point along this. Now what is radical 6? I don't have a calculator on me, but I do know that the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 9 is 3. So 6 is somewhere in between there. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, well here's over 1, over 2, this will be over 3. So I'm going to put it in here, and I'm going to call this negative 2 plus the square root of 6 as my point. And then here, I'm going to go over 1, over 2, here's the 3, some more, and we're going to call this point negative 2 minus the square root of 6. Just like that. So with that said, we talked about using our HK. We talked about using our method to find our intercepts for our x. We looked at using our y-intercept by sticking a 0 in for the x. Now the only thing we didn't really talk about is this a portion. Now I want you to recognize the a in here is a positive 1. Notice that as it's a positive 1, this u, if you will, is in the up direction, where this would be our minimal, and these are going on to infinity. Now, I'm taking basically the same problem, except I'm changing some signs up. As you can see, this is now a negative up front. This is a negative 2. This is a positive 6. So I want to go over what's going to happen. Now, from what we talked about before, we can look at this, use our vertex. Remember, this is with the x inside, so we're going to go against that, all right? That's going to be the liar. So our vertex is going to be positive 2, and we're going to go with this, the k here. 2, 6. So I'm going to draw this out. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right there. Okay, now, looking for my intercepts. Well, I'm going to look for a y-intercept. In order to get a y-intercept, it's along this axis. That means that On this axis, x is 0. So I'm going to plug in the 0 for my x. I just left off the 2 there on the square. Alright, now here we go. Negative 2 squared, positive 4. However, we still got this negative out front. I'm going to add the 6, negative 4 plus 6, which is going to give me a positive 2. So when my x is 0, I've got a positive 2. Now, the distance between, here's my axis of symmetry. This is 2, 6. So my axis of symmetry is going to be along the 2 for the x. So the distance between this is going to be 2. So if I come out 3, 4, come out another 2, I know that I'm going to be in the same spot. And we did that before. I can go ahead and do that again for you if you like. F of positive 4, this becomes negative 2 squared plus 6. This becomes negative 4 plus 6. Negative 4 plus 6 after I distribute. So this is going to become a positive 2. So F of 4 is positive 2. Notice F of 4, positive 2. So I know this is going to be looking like this. We're going to be connected these that way. Now parabolas, quadratics, so on and so forth, they look like U's. My art isn't really that great, but you get the idea here. Now I can go on through here. I can go ahead, set this equation equal to 0. I can solve it out to find my intercepts as I did last time. But the key that I wanted you to see is I wanted you to see that as my A out front, if it's negative, notice that it's going down. My U shape is going down. So essentially, basically, if we think about this, if our A is positive, we know that we're happy. So our smile looks like that, right? I'll make some eyeballs like that. Now, if our A is negative, that means we're having a bad day, and we're probably looking like this. All right, so that's going to give us our parabola downward. Okay? So overall, what we discussed on this one, we talked about finding our vertex through our A times x minus h squared plus k. We're going to go ahead and know that we go opposite of what's in here for the h. And the rationale for that is because essentially instead of starting here at the 0, we're moving it over in order to get a 0 for this portion of it. Then we have our k. We go with that. We can go in and find our intercepts. Our y-intercept, we made this 0 for the x, plugged it into the equation, worked it out. Noting that the symmetry, we took the distance from this point to the center of our axis of symmetry. Then we took that same distance, put it over here, dropped it in there. And then earlier we talked about solving the intercepts down there. I'm not going to do that for you again because it's pretty much the same thing. So with that said, gee willikers. So the cheetah and the lion decide to get into a race and decide who's fastest in the jungle, even though lions aren't in the jungle, and I don't believe cheetahs are either, but whatever. So they go through, they meet in the jungle, decide who's the faster, the tiger's judging and stuff, and so they take off and they run. And of course the cheetah wins. So a lion comes across the stage and the finish line says, you know what? Everybody knows the only reason why you won is because all you is a cheetah. Then the lion says, you know what? No one wants to hear what you have to say because all you be is a lion. Ta-da! Not that good, huh? No? I don't know. Forget who told me that one. It was, Makeda. Girl, that was your joke. I hope I did it right. Okay, that's it. That's it.
Is she in your class?
Yeah, she's in the class.